Okay, so in BP, we built a couple of teams around the CVC unit. We built a scale-up builder called Launchpad, and we built an incubation team as well. So we're going to hear now from the panel. Moderating is Linda Yates, founder and CEO of Mach49, and Paul Holland, managing director and venture capitalist in residence in Mach49. Please welcome them.
All right, I think I'm working off this mic, right? Yep, you're good? All right, greetings, good morning, everybody. There's no natural light in here, so you may need to, if you want to stand up, wave your arms, sit back down, move around. That's the GCVI way, as we all know. So you're not going to hurt our feelings if you're milling around and you're basically keeping yourself energized with no natural light in here. I am Linda Yates. I'm the founder and CEO of Mach49. On stage with me is Paul Holland, managing director of Mach49's corporate venture investing practice and longtime Silicon Valley native, 20 years as a top-tier venture capitalist and still a general partner at Foundation Capital. And our lovely Christian Lindener, who is actually going to tell you some very interesting news before it breaks in about an hour. He is now the global head of Airbus Scale, the company builder. So I'm going to start. I'm going to hopefully. This thing is supposed to, hang on. So Laurent was supposed to be with us, and we apologize that he is not here. Laurent is the Global Vice President and the Head of Strategy Digital Solutions and Corporate Incubation Acceleration for Hitachi. Due to COVID protocols, he was not allowed into the UK from France. He has been kind enough to basically pre-record a little 15-minute overview for all of you, which we will post after the session. It's very sad that he's not here because the happy story is we actually met Hitachi at GCVI in Monterey pre-COVID 2 years ago, and we've been together ever since, helping them do venture building, kind of ideating, incubating, accelerating, scaling ventures across. So we are sad that he's not here, but he has provided you some information which you'll be able to peruse at your leisure. So now I'm going to move to, I'm going to just do a quick setup. Kind of why should you guys care? You're here to basically be at a global corporate venture capital summit. So why is it that you, they're trying to get these slides up. Why is it that you should care about the other side of the coin, the yin and the yang, if you will, which is why should you be building your own venture factory? There you go. Close. I can see it. Ah, there we go. Perfect. All right, it's up, but it's not. There we go. Okay, so why should you be thinking about organic venture building and building your own venture factory in addition to the corporate venture investing and strategic partnering and M&A that you may be doing? Well, the reality is that if you look at the statistics, companies are actually going out of business faster than they ever have before. If you look at the average life of a company on the Fortune 500 50 years ago, it was 75 years ago. Today, it's 15 years and declining. Of those companies that were on the Fortune 500 list 50 years ago, 88% of them are completely out of business, irrelevant, have been bought and off the stage. Only 12% of them are still kicking. And even if you don't believe that companies are going out of business, I'm just going to let you guys click. Even if you, which I don't, because I'm a huge believer in large corporations, even if they aren't going out of business, the reality is that the G1000 is leaving a lot of money on the table. Today, there's 842 unicorns with a total valuation of $2.7 trillion. And the reality is that the barbarians are still standing at your gate, right? You still have the Mark Andreessens, the Paul Hollands, the Benchmark Sequoias, Excels, NEAs, basically now add to that the BlackRocks, TPGs, Carlyle sitting on billions of dollars of capital, basically going after every single industry, including yours. But we really do believe that now is the time for global businesses really to be disrupting markets, building and investing in new ventures to drive meaningful growth. We believe that actually, in addition to the venture investing, you actually should have 4 arrows in your growth engine quiver. One of them is what you're doing with the CVC. In addition, and many of you are already doing this with your CVC, is the opportunity to be doing strategic partnering with startups, also to be doing what we call venture M&A or targeted M&A. We're doing a venture right now with Hitachi that we're going to get to $50 million very, very quickly, but we can get them to $1 billion in valuation even quicker with the acquisition of one company for about $100 million. So that's what we call targeted M&A. We leave the big M&A to kind of our investment banking friends. But really, we also believe that that 4th arrow in your quiver needs to be to build your own venture factory to drive organic growth for a whole bunch of different reasons. So why can you do this? Because if you think about it, there is no reason that the unicorns, that the dinosaurs, which people like to call big Global 1000 companies, cannot beat the unicorns at their own game. You guys have ideas, you have talent, you have brand, you have channels, you have customers. There literally is no reason you cannot disrupt yourselves from the inside out, just as with your CVC, you're disrupting yourselves from the outside in to drive meaningful growth. There really is no reason that Blockbuster could not have created Netflix. In fact, they had 3 opportunities to buy Netflix. Reed Hastings is a dear friend of ours. And we know that story well, and they absolutely had 3 opportunities. There's no reason Airbnb could not have been launched by Marriott, that Uber could not have come out of Toyota, or that Jamie Dimon or any of his friends in the financial services world could not have created Stripe, which is about a $90 billion valuation. There's literally no law of physics. So just be happy I don't know all of you yet, because I can create a logo like this for almost every one of you in this room. So the reality is that we believe that, and this is the last slide, so really when we think about this, and this is a whole presentation that we do that talks about the integration between CVCs and venture building. You can just leave this slide up, thanks. It just disappeared. Oh, there it is, it's not down here. So that we really do believe that these 2 things are the yin and the yang of each other. And hopefully, if you do have a CVC and you have a venture factory, that these 2 things actually are working together. There are some cases where we find that there's not great relations between the CVC and your venture factory, and it's a great opportunity, because if you think about it, your CVC, you have the opportunity to basically keep the mothership current on the art of the possible. And if you are doing a venture factory, one option is to build, but the other 3 options are to buy, partner, invest, and a CVC is absolutely imperative to be able to know where those startups exist around the world that will help you augment or accelerate your internal ventures. So with that, I'm going to actually turn it over to Christian, who's going to tell you his story and the story of Airbus, because there's some exciting news that is emerging today.
Absolutely. Many thanks. And many thanks for this kind introduction here. So, I don't know if I need to introduce Airbus. Who doesn't know Airbus? Nobody? Okay, yeah. We built a flying thing, so it's not only the leading aerospace company of the world, it's also the #1 defense company of Europe, and we also do some helicopters. But Airbus at the moment is living its Kodak moment, right? I mean, and we saw this last year when all the airlines grounded their aircraft. Airbus is a double-digit billion euro company, dependent on 80% of its business coming from aircraft business. So if that's not crying for new business models, I know about that. So we took last year the chance to revisit, and I think all the corporates hopefully did this, to revisit their innovation efforts on what we're doing. Airbus has a large history on innovating. They started 2015, ramping up Silicon Valley, Shenzhen, doing a couple of things, the accelerator BizLab, which I had before, and 67 other incubators and accelerators within the company. Now let that number sink. 400 million euros spent the last 4 to 5 years on innovating. Outcome? I haven't seen that much. So we took a look last year on what we're doing, what exactly is it what we're doing, what is it really adding value to the company. And innovation from my side, I don't know about you, but it's always about creating growth, right? Creating value and creating growth for the mothership. Linda and me, we know each other for a couple of years, and one thing that also attracted me to this methodology here is the mothership engagement. A big company can be very powerful if we really unlock the unfair advantage. So we took the macroeconomic situation last year to shut down most of the innovation efforts we were doing, right? Worked the last 18 months on creating exactly the left part, what you saw on the slides, the venture builder part. So it's my pleasure today, and you're going to see it all around the news, to announce the new innovation unit, the company builder, called Airbus Scale. What we did is to combine all the different units we have into this unit, right? All focusing on building companies that will then contribute to the growth of the mothership, right? Living in a coherent ecosystem together with the CVC. So we're shutting down the innovation theater, the entrepreneurship programs, the accelerators. We'll still be working with startups, but in a different way, and focusing on venture building, company building purely. Airbus, as many other companies, are very R&D heavy, right? We produce a lot of technologies, and the company is committed to get to that net zero in 2050 and launching the sustainable aircraft in 2035. Until we get there, there's going to be so much technologies being produced where our brilliant engineers, and they are brilliant, really think on how to get this into an aircraft, how to get this into a satellite. We think it differently. What can we build that can add value to most of the humanity? And I mean, in good times, 6 million people in the second left on an aircraft, on an Airbus aircraft. I think we do have the power to combine that. So we started our journey. We had lots of talks, and we touched, I think, every support function we could in the company. There was one crucial part missing where we said, well, actually we need to build these things, right? Do we have the execution power inside to do it? Or why don't we partner with somebody who really knows it? And this is where Linda and Paul, we talked about it, and we took Mach49 on board, right? Because I believe that big companies, they have so much value inside, but when it's come to building, take somebody who really knows about doing it. To start, they need to be outside and take a different view on that. So there's the Airbus story. It's very exciting to be here today and announcing this. Whatever question you have, I think we're going to have some time for it later. Cool. First thing first.
Awesome. Great.
Awesome. Thank you.
You have to understand, Christian, he didn't give you his background. He is a successful serial entrepreneur. He's not your normal kind of come from within. Airbus did an amazing job doing a pretty massive search to find Christian, because he's basically the startup renaissance man, having done venture investing, having done venture building, having been a founder, a successful founder. So it's great to be able to work with you. Yeah, you had some questions, you said.
Oh, okay, great, yeah. One of the things that we encounter in working with corporations all over the world is this sort of balance between the internal incubation function and then the external function, typically related to a CVC. Based on the things that you've been exposed to and things like that, and you think out to this audience, many of the people in this audience, if not most of the people in this audience, are primarily responsible for the CVC. How would you have them think about the concept of building a vehicle for organic growth in the way that you're doing now with the new scale opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, despite all the people in the audience, I mean, I find venture building more exciting, right? It's building, and that's just more me as a founder as well. But I think also that the impact on that part, if we really release it to the market, can be bigger. Right? If you unify that with the knowledge we have with CVCs on how to build great companies, this is also an unfair advantage we have. For example, I mean, we do have amazing people in the company that were not able to build inside of the company amazing companies. They went out and they founded Universal Hydrogen, they founded Archer Aviation, Joby. A lot of people of Airbus are actually working for Joby. And you find 30 other unicorns where Airbus people have either a founding role or a key member, right? So we couldn't give them the space to do so, and now we see Archer Aviation and ESA Aerospace, all of them skyrocketing, the incumbents. So that brought us actually to the idea, hey, we have amazing people, we have amazing technology, so what is missing? The venture building part. And if we get that right, it's not going to be about unicorns, but data constant.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think is really interesting about when we think about venture building, we think about it across the spectrum, from ideate to incubate to accelerate to scale. So a lot of big companies are really good at ideation, and this is exactly what Christian is talking about. It's the incubate, and they're really good at scale, right? That's what large companies do really well. It's the incubate and the accelerate, which is super important, and a lot of people forget about the acceleration, about accelerate, and they forget that, you know, it's really about execution. When we think about venture building, we think about, you know, it's understanding customer pain, marrying that with the art of the possible, and placing a series of small bets, right? You guys are like VCs in Silicon Valley. The way we look at funding in Silicon Valley is funding is like an onion. Every layer of onion is a layer of risk. Could be financial, could be market, could be technical risk, could be governance. You love it to death or you starve it of oxygen, right? And so the goal is for large companies is to build those business and execution plans and incubate that allow you to remove the greatest amount of risk on the least amount of capital and run those small bets and run those experiments. And I think what's really interesting is that you guys have now, you've set yourself up around ideate, incubate, and really accelerate is where you realized, wait, we could do those, but accelerate where the rubber meets the road and you're looking for product market fit and you're looking for that first revenue. That became kind of a really aha moment for you guys in terms of creating the company builder.
Correct, exactly. I mean, and you're talking only about you're talking about the latest part of the process. Before we did that, we needed to go really deep inside of the company, and that's what I was talking about, the mothership engagement. We talked to, well, we didn't talk, we changed processes in procurement, in legal, and IT. Look at the hiring process. I mean, you're not going to get entrepreneurs working for your ventures with the hiring scheme of Airbus with a pension plan and a company car. It just doesn't work. people like these don't care about that, right? You need people that will get it, that will have skin in the game. And explaining this to a huge 144,000 people company was, I think, the biggest challenge there. So getting that part clean, and it's the little nitty-gritty details like a new venture board, people that take decisions, that can have the decision and have the budget to release those ventures is key to unlocking that. So there's a bunch of things we have to sort out before.
And what are for the folks in the audience that are contemplating the idea of having a venture factory, venture builder, what were the motivations? Like, what were the things that really got kind of Airbus over the top on really getting their act together, modernizing their approach, and doing that sort of thing? And I'll do a little bit of an aside because I know you mentioned Joby as one of the things that are there.
Yeah.
So at the last GCVI, if any of you guys were there in Monterey, you might recall, you might have seen the things. We brought Rich Kramer, the CEO of Goodyear, and he brought the blimp. And so we were doing this session, and the blimp flew over. So that was very fun. We got a lot of really great selfies. But just before we'd taken him there, we took him to Joby Aviation, and where Bonnie Simi, who's a illustrious alumna of this program and GCVI, and used to run ventures at JetBlue, she's now the head of business operations there. So she spent 2 hours. We sat in the cockpit. We were in the quarry. We did the whole program in terms of visiting Joby. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Joby, it's an electronic, effectively, they used to call it a drone copter, but it's going to be a piloted flight, piloted vertical takeoff and landing electric plane that'll be capable of trips up to about 300 kilometers. And the idea is that there'll be competitive pricing with Uber in terms of short haul, and then well below competitive pricing for normal sort of even short haul airlines from that perspective. So we saw the demo, we saw the sort of the notion. They have a really nice tagline, which is a little bit threatening to everybody else who's in the aviation business, which is that by the time they're 5 years in, they expect to be the largest aviation company in history, because they're going to be taking millions of people on millions of flights. It's just a new model. It's just a new way to think about it. So when we got in the car after doing the visit, I'm sitting with Goodyear, a guy who's really invested in mobility, but ground mobility, and I said, Rich, what does it feel like to see the end of the automobile, right? And so, like, what were the drivers? What were the things that really got the call to action for the senior people at Airbus to say, look, we've got to get serious about this. This is sort of an existential crisis for us.
Yeah. So it was a combination of a couple of things. And to add an anecdote to this one, 15 years ago, the previous CEO of Airbus, Tom Anders, met Elon Musk at a conference, and they were talking about partnering. Tom Anders back then said, you're not going to make it. It's too complicated. It's too capital intensive. I think we can say he was wrong, right? But what changed? Now, last year, we saw all of these urban air mobility companies, especially backing out on Archer Aviation, 3.9 billion euros valuation, ESA Aerospace raising 60 million euros, bringing Arianespace probably out of business. This in addition to a crisis bringing the leading aerospace company into a Kodak moment, was actually a good moment to start these discussions. So we have this sense of urgency by one side. If you don't have it, don't start conversations about venture building, because you're not going to get there. You need that sense of urgency. You need the talent, you need the technological capabilities, and then you need the execution power to do so. And also the evidence was clear that a lot of people left the company to start their own companies, and they're successful. And Joby, by the way, is flying. They have a demonstrator. It's going to be the first one, and that is what is frightening for an industry. So all that sense, but I think in a nutshell you can say a sense of urgency is there. Now start the next one that could really get the next business for aerospace.
Yeah, when we think about it, when Christian came to us and said, okay, and actually Maha is here from Sifted. If any of you who are not subscribers to Sifted, you definitely need to be a subscriber to Sifted. They do amazing, amazing work just focused on CVCs and venture building, so it's very targeted. But when we think about, Christian said, okay, what are the biggest mistakes, right? So Airbus had gone through it several iterations. He was kind of the white knight coming in to basically really reinvent what Airbus X could be. But we talk about what are the three big mistakes. And number one is that most large companies, when they do a venture factory, have no methodology. They basically say, well, we're going to be Y Combinator, 500 startups. We're going to be Techstars. We're going to have mentors and money, and in essence, that's going to work. Well, that doesn't work for large companies, because you can't throw spaghetti against the wall and hope it sticks. It works for him to have a 12% success rate at Foundation. He only needs 2 companies to return the fund to their LPs, makes him happy. That kind of a failure rate does not work in a large multinational, multi-billion-dollar public company. So that's the first thing, is you've got to have a repeatable, scalable model that you can implement, that anybody, trust me, if a 25-year-old in Silicon Valley can start a startup, brilliant people inside Airbus can start startups. Hitachi, Shell, Schneider, Stanley Black & Decker, these are all companies that are basically we're building venture factories with and doing that. Secondly is friction, right? You fail to imagine what the from-to shifts are that you need to change to help your ventures reach escape velocity. I'm not a big believer in innovation transformation. I don't think it works. But if you tether enough speedboats in the form of new ventures to your mothership, and they're worth 100 million or 200 million or 300 million euro, guess what? All of a sudden, and that's $1 billion in market cap, all of a sudden people are saying, what are those from-to shifts you said I needed to make in procurement or politics or hiring or whatever else, how we're doing it? And then the third reason that these things tend to fail is because senior executives fail to grow. They need to learn to stop looking at ventures like management review board members where they're just going to dump all over these things, and they actually put the same metrics on them as they do their core and legacy business. I'm actually writing an article for, we're doing a piece of research and writing an article for HBR called Valuing the Unicorn Within, which will make all of your CEOs happy, because we're going after the financial market saying, listen, you give a hall pass to all of his IPOs for 10 years, they don't have to turn a profit. But I've got your so-called dinosaurs who actually, their ventures have a greater opportunity for success, because if they seize the mothership advantage, they have a lot more to go on. Then you basically, you need a different set of metrics for the core and legacy business in that. So we're going after that, but sometimes the senior executives get in their own way. They don't look in terms of a portfolio. You guys know the beauty of portfolio management. You need a portfolio to be successful. They need to learn to think in terms of option value, not net present value. They need to think in terms of new metrics like revenue and customer acquisition, not profit. So these are kind of 3 things that you really, in addition to Christian's point about that sense of urgency, there's some other pieces that are really critical to if you're going to make this happen.
That's great. So we're gonna begin to start letting you all interact here and have a point of view. I'm gonna actually do the incredibly obnoxious thing, which is I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna walk out and I'm gonna wake everybody up from their coffee naps because I'm gonna sort of randomly start asking people questions and asking them to interact. I know that's your favorite. It's everybody's favorite, but it works pretty well for actually getting people engaged. I'm going to begin with a question for Linda, which is that since Laurent was not able to get into the country, maybe if you can take a couple minutes to articulate, all the things that they're doing at Hitachi, which is a very ambitious program that they're working on.
Yeah, I mean, we've built, one of the things that's unique about us is that when I founded the firm, I said I'm not hiring any consultants. So we have no consultants. We only have people who are actually operating executives. They're either successful serial entrepreneurs, top-tier VCs, or C-suite executives. So among our partners and experts in residence, we've created about $50 billion in market value in companies we've invested in, managed, created, or built. So we've done what we're teaching and what we're doing. And so with, and Hitachi's a little further ahead than the work that we've been doing with Airbus, but we've been with Hitachi about 2 years, and our goal is ultimately to work ourselves out of a job. We have a teachable, repeatable, scalable model, but sometimes we're helping our clients fly the plane while they're building the plane, so that they can get points on the board. So what Hitachi has done, we've probably done about 14 different types of work with them, all the way from the ideation phase, where we're looking at distributed energy, multimodal logistics, smart farming, and identifying ventures that they could go incubate. We're then incubating ventures with them. Sometimes we'll start doing what we call a customer development sprint. Just, is there a lot of pain out there here, and helping you filter that? Sometimes then we'll go on and then we'll actually help accelerate, like with Shell. We've done a bunch of ventures for Shell. One of them was something they said, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this ourselves, so hey, take our baby and go raise it for us. So, but really it is all about execution. And I think this is what is really cool about Airbus bringing Christian in to basically run this, and Marta, who's here somewhere, who is his right hand, his co-pilot, if you will, who's amazing as well. Like, these guys come in with very different experience than you would otherwise see, and are really poised to take Airbus into the 21st century.
So we have a lucky one.
Yes.
You guys, is that mic on?
Yeah, I can tell.
Talk loud, Paul. We can
Now
hear
it
you.
is. There you go. So I have Dr. Susan Hill here, and she's got a question for Linda.
Okay, hi. I didn't realize I was getting myself into asking a question. Okay, so my question is the innovation factory. Now, to what extent do you think the factory analogy works or not? So you're using the term factory, and I'm sure you're using it as a informed consumer. Is it good? Where is it good? Does it have failings as far as you see it? Or internal entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it's a great question, why we use Venture Factory, Innovation Factory. Harvard Press is actually publishing my book next year. I actually have a whole side note on why we call it a Venture Factory. Mostly, everybody calls it something different. You're calling it Airbus Scale.
Company builder. Yeah.
Company builder. Google calls it Google X. Different people are calling it different things. What we are trying to get away from is people using either the word incubator or the word accelerator, because you actually need both. And so we use Venture Factory for two reasons. One is that we believe large companies need a repeatable, scalable model to be able to do this over and over again and have the institutional memory and get that going differently than what a traditional Silicon Valley venture capitalist needs. So that the concept of a factory is that, so that it is repeatable and scalable. But the other is, a lot of people think, we got the ideas, we can incubate. They get to a business and execution plan, and then they forget that, getting from 0 to 10 is really hard, really hard. And so accelerate's really important, and we think of accelerate in 3 phases: build to validate, then build to mobilize, then build to grow. And then what we also get people to understand, it's not just about building product. We actually talk about 5 swim lanes. Yes, it's about product, but it's also about what experiments are you running on your go-to-market? What's your business model going to look like? How are you pricing? What are your operations? Because you can have great go-to-market, great product market fit, but if you can't get to positive unit economics, that thing's not going to scale. And then ultimately, team. Can you recruit the team? And which means you might have to play with compensation. touchy subject, but you might have to pay with compensation if you're going to recruit that top tier person out of Berlin who's a product lead to basically lead that venture.
And I think it's probably worth noting, sorry, I can't tell. Yeah, there you go. Probably worth noting that Linda and her team at Mach49 have now incubated about 50 companies inside the corpus of some of the largest companies in the world. So Shell, Stanley Black & Decker, Intel, Hitachi, many others. Airbus is a new client that we're very excited about being able to work with. But this is a practice that's been honed, kind of in the field over the last several years. And it's one of the reasons why Harvard decided to feature Linda in this book, The Unicorn Within, because it really articulates kind of a new version, a new process of this compared to what people have been doing in the past. But we have another question here. So, sorry, it's Rosie.
Hi, I'm Rosie Bennett from Set Squared Partnership. My question is for Christian. Where do you source innovation? So is it from internal R&D? Is it through acquisitions of early stage companies, startups? Is it through universities? I suppose that's the first question. And the second question is, how do you keep it ethical? How do you maintain a fair payment for the people that come up with that innovation in the first place?
Yeah, excellent question. Many thanks for that. So I mean, Airbus is a global company, right? So we do actually all of these, but let me point out the most important one. So we get the best sources to build then the ventures out of technology itself, right? I mean, you have a brilliant engineer who thinks about building something into the space station or into a submarine. We take that, build it out, and voila, you have something that then creates oxygen at a large scale, right? So that would be the most trustworthy source on doing it. Still, there are some things we cannot build by ourselves, right? Which we, as our team, me and Marta and a couple of other people say, like, look, this is what we do, and this is something we should be doing, right? But this is nothing they want to go into because it's not core, it's adjacent, it's new business. So we also go into that approach and start a greenfield approach. We call that opportunity mapping, right? So we also go into that one. On the other side, you're going to have all the startups coming out of the universities and the accelerators, so we also cherry pick on those and take those one in that can really get a high impact value and at a very, very short impact. So that is the first one, and this is where it's useful to have these innovation unit people, because they know the business inside. They know the formal and informal ways on getting to these treasures that are hidden somewhere in Singapore some engineer is working on, right? So that's where I see the value. When it comes to building, you need a very different skill set, and this comes to the Innovation Factory. You always need different people working on different things until you then roll to the market. You need the entrepreneurs. So that's the first one. The second one, hiring schemes. This was a funny, frustrating journey as well, because I touched it before. You're not going to get the good people with a company car and a pension plan, right? So actually getting people to have stakes in the ventures we create is a big topic, right? So the people that come from internal, there might be some that are brilliant CTOs, so they go with this company, but they also need to be prepared to lose all the benefits, the perks they had with the company. And if you look at 100 people that will say, yes, I'm going to start a corporate venture, whatever, you're going to get one or two that really will jump off the cliff and do this. So that is one thing that really needs to be sorted out. And then one talk with adding value, talk with our CFO, was it's better to have 30% a minority stake on a venture that is valuable than 100% of that's nothing valuable. And this also added to the macroeconomics of last year. Answer your question?
Great. We have a question from Julia Romo over here.
Thank you very much. So it's Julio Romo from 247 Strategy. I've got two questions, not one. So the first one's about culture. How do you get the culture right to get that innovation mindset that's going to lead you to obviously everything that you wish to achieve? So that's more the internal, but obviously once you've achieved that, more about the communication. So once you've got that and you've been able to kind of position yourself, say in the case of upcoming Airbus scale, to let the market know that they should be coming to you and not to other ventures there. How do you balance that, and how much importance do you place on both of those aspects?
I'll answer, and then I'll let you answer for Airbus.
Go ahead.
So on the culture, it's a great question. And so what we talk about is that there's 4 types of people that you will be thinking about recruiting either internally or externally for your venture factory. One are your founders, those are your founding team that will run any of those ventures. Number 2 are your incubator or accelerator, your venture factory team members, because you want to train those people up. Because if your founding team, if you launch that thing, now they know the process, they know how to do it, but they're gone to you because they're running the business. Third are what we call the new venture board members. Those are the senior executives. And then the last group are what we call new venture advocates. These are the group that actually are the most powerful from a change the culture standpoint, because they are the people who actually don't really have an interest in being an internal entrepreneur, but they are entrepreneurial, and they want to be that kind of revolutionary cell inside of IT or HR or marketing or procurement. And because like I show a picture when I do a big keynote where I say, look, Silicon Valley grew up in service of our entrepreneurs. So Silicon Valley Bank does not look like the Bank of Atlanta. Wilson Sonsini or Fenwick or Oric or any of these guys don't look like law firms in London necessarily. But, we basically, so what we say is like, who is going to be that new venture advocate? Who in legal is going to write the 1-page term sheet for that pilot, not the 40-page term sheet? Who in HR can spell growth hacker, right? Who in procurement, when we're doing a project for Purina that's an integrated hardware software project, doesn't basically take 6 weeks to get a hardware prototype, 6 months to get a hardware prototype on the pre-approved procurement list, right? So we basically create a new venture advocate program, and now those guys are leaning in, they're super excited, and then you get gradual transformation without doing these big workshops. So that's one, and then communications is part of that culture change. We have both internal and external communications that we have the venture teams do, where they're feeding back to the organization what they're learning. They might be doing lunch and learns and different programming. So there's lots of communication is a key part, both internally and externally.
Adding up to that, and I love the question about the cultural thing, because I don't think we need to stop thinking that innovation units or venture builders would change the culture of a company, right? It should not. I mean, Airbus should not be run like a startup. We do flying things, and failing faster is it's just not cool. So we also ran away from that. We want to change. It works as it works. It's profitable. It's good. We do other stuff. Obviously, it's good to find those things. Not that hard at Airbus because they are engineers. They are very ingenious people. So that's good. They come to us when they really want to build something big. That's the first one. The second one, communication, absolutely key. I mean, Airbus committed to Airbus Scale today, launching everything. So they are committed to us, and this gives us a power in the market and the power inside of the company, which we need. Visibility, communication, and a clear commitment from the top management. Otherwise, it's not worth starting it.
So we have a very quick question from Alex Haskell at Salesforce Ventures, and then we have to wrap.
So really quick question. So 2 things super important for founders, obviously, is compensation and control of the company. And I think you guys have sort of touched this a little bit, but I'm curious to just get more concrete on that. Like, how do you think about like compensation for founders in terms of ownership and upside, and also for recruiting, and then also control, because both of those things are obviously super important for entrepreneurs.
So I'll hit a very quick headline. We work with this all the time, because one of the things we say, there's a company that we're working with that the senior guys don't really want the founders to be making more money than they do, but it's exactly Christian's point that 30% of a rocket ship is better than 100% of nothing. And so we often will create what we call phantom stock plans. So our clients, there's 3 ways they typically look at. Sometimes they spin them into an existing business unit. Rarely is that the first option. Mostly they're doing wholly owned subsidiaries, and with those we're doing phantom stock plans, and I can afterwards give you more detail on that. And then some of them are actually spinning them out, and if they're spinning them out, then we're setting them up with a normal cap table that looks just like any one of the ventures that you guys would be investing in. So anyway, I'm happy to give more details, but.
Yeah, really quick, I mean, you need to decide either you want to growth or you want to have control, right? We opted for growth. So Airbus also needs to learn how to be a good minority shareholder in that point, and the founders need to have a stake in this company. Otherwise, you're not going to get the best people.